Hi everyone, I'm Jamie Perez with the Light Journal podcast, and this is the first episode of our new series, Becoming Who You Are. Before tackling this topic, I'd like to take a brief side route and discuss cellular sentience. The average adult human has about 30 trillion cells, and according to the latest scientific research, every one of those cells is sentient. And how do they know? Because individual cells show memory, problem solving, and awareness. That's 30 trillion individual entities that compose who you are. They're in your bones, your muscles, your organs, your blood, and your tissues. In other words, you're not one consciousness, but many, and they're all working together to create a human body that hosts your spirit while you're in this physical reality. 30 trillion cells. And each cell is part of this greater whole. To really understand the magnitude of what's happening, all we need to do is take a look at the heart. And I quote, "The human heart contains an estimated 2 to 3 billion cardiac muscle cells, but these account for less than a third of the total cell number in the heart." Another article said that researchers from Precision Cardiology Lab, Massachusetts General Hospital, and Masonic Medical Research Institute, quote, identified 9 major cell types and over 20 subtypes in the organ, unquote. And all these cells are talking to one another in a process known as cellular crosstalk. They're all working together to make sure that the heart functions as a whole. If any of the 9 major cell types or 20 subtypes stop coordinating and talking to the other groups of cells, well, guess what? The heart gets sick. It can and does die, just from failure to communicate. So how do cells communicate? Well, in the simplest terms, cells talk to each other using chemical signals. The chemicals travel through cell membranes to reach their target, which then changes the cell's behavior, which in turn opens up communication to other cells, ultimately creating the desired response. So getting back to the topic of becoming who you are, what if I told you that through meditation, you can begin interacting with your cellular consciousness? That through repeated, focused, meditative techniques, you could begin to sense your body in an entirely new way. To not only feel your skin, muscles, tissues, organs, bones, blood, nervous system, but to see them within your mind's eye, and ultimately learn how to heal your own body. Shamanic healing, although not a practice that generally uses medical terms, works from a similar premise. But instead of calling it cellular consciousness or multicellular consciousness, shamanic practitioners use terms like energy, light, spirit. During healing sessions, while they're in a trance or deep meditative state, the shamanic practitioner connects with the different types of consciousness found within the body. And that includes bacteria that may be causing illness. And they send a message intended to initiate the desired response. In other words, by moving into a spiritual state of being, the shamanic practitioner can act like a neurotransmitter to the cell, initiating cellular healing. There's no reason to believe that this skill is limited to shamanic practitioners. Many cultures and religious traditions have examples of so-called miraculous healings. But are they truly miraculous, or are they the result of people learning how to connect with cellular consciousness, both within themselves and in the world around them? In our world today, our 5 senses are constantly bombarded with stimuli that distracts us from ourselves. We're constantly looking at our phones, watching Reels, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and who knows what else. And if our eyes aren't engaged, then our ears are. We're listening to the radio, music, TV, or something else. Even when we're eating, how often are we distracted by something other than our food? It never stops. So that means our mind doesn't ever have a chance to focus inward, and we become easily distracted. We're always looking for something on the outside to entertain us. And yet we have 30 trillion sentient cells that could just as easily occupy our attention. But we've lost connection to that part of ourselves. We've forgotten what we're capable of doing and being. We see ourselves as limited and finite, restricted to whatever our senses detect on the outside of ourselves. When in truth, our greatest freedom potentially comes from turning our attention inward. Humanity as a whole has lost huge swaths of inner knowledge, but what is lost can be found. It's not gone, it's just hidden. It's there. If you seek it, you'll find it. If you put aside the distractions and begin looking within, you will see things you never thought were possible. You'll discover new aspects to yourself, eternal creative aspects to yourself. And you'll learn to welcome silence instead of fear it. You'll learn to celebrate the experiences you find within yourself. And instead of being at war with your body, you'll learn from your 30 trillion sentient cells how to collaborate and work as a unified whole. That's what the Light Journal is all about, creating awareness, walking together, being divine, knowing who and what you are. That changes everything. So where do you go from here? Especially if you're fairly new to the idea of being more than what you've ever been taught. Well, it starts with believing you can be more. A psychologist explained it this way. We've been taught that seeing is believing. That's actually backwards. Believing is seeing. If you believe you can be more, then it becomes the truth. It's a form of manifesting, one of the most basic forms. When you believe something, it becomes your reality. For example, if you believe you're nothing more than a body, well, then that's what you experience in life. If you believe you're worthless, inadequate, or flawed, then that's what your life experience shows you. Only when you believe you're more than what you've accepted is true that your life begins to change. The biggest point I want you to take from this is that you can manifest your reality because you're divine. You're a creator by nature. Your reality is what you decide it is. The more limited you believe yourself to be, the more limited your experience will be. So here's the first step to take on this journey to self-expansion and spiritual growth. Believe you are divine. You are capable of change, of transformation, and of improvement. You can be what you want to be. Thanks for listening. I'm Jamie Perez with the Light Journal Podcast. Next week, I'll explore the idea of manifesting your spiritual growth. If you would like to learn more about becoming who you truly are, you can find me on YouTube at Light Journal or at the Light Journal Facebook page. Blessings on your journey, everyone. Citations to the articles I quoted are listed on my YouTube channel beneath this podcast.